Lincoln City, Chesterfield, Grimsby Town. These are some of the names of clubs you would not expect to see in the Premier League. But on the flip side, Arsenal, Manchester United, and Liverpool are some of the names you would not expect to hear in League 2. And I mean, Sunderland is not a name you expect to hear in League 1. Oh wait. But what would happen if this was reality? What if the top 4 English football divisions were flipped? We're going to find out. Will a League 2 side take advantage of the Premier League's financial gain and become the next big club? Or perhaps will a current big club fade into nothingness and dwell among the English lower leagues? We're gonna find out. G'day guys, how's it going? It is JarradHD here. Welcome back to another FIFA 18 experiment video. This is a really cool idea with a number of storylines. I am so excited to see what happens, but we're going to be simulating 10 years into the future and seeing what the English football landscape looks like if the top 4 leagues are flipped around. Now, of course, all 3 leagues, which are the Championship, League 1 and League 2, all have 24 clubs, but the Premier League has 20. So I've had to play around. Of course, not all 24 clubs from League 2 could fit into the Premier League, so what I've done is the top 4 clubs in real life have gone to the Championship, which makes sense because they are the highest rated, they are the best clubs in that division, so they need to go down lower. So that means that Accrington, Luton, Wickham and Exeter will be in the Championship. And then the same deal with the fact that there's 20 Premier League teams and 24 need to be in League 2, so that means that Wolves, Cardiff, Fulham and Aston Villa will all be in League 2 because they are the 4 highest finishing in the Championship. A few teams mix and match due to number differences, but overall, you've got the idea. It's going to be the teams flipped around. And also, fellas, I need to give a big shout out to Hepic, another FIFA career mode YouTuber. He did do a very similar experiment to this in FIFA 17, but I want to work on it a little bit more, try some things out again, and see if it works in FIFA 18. But regardless, a massive shout out to Hepic for the basis, the shell of this idea. And for this experiment, we're going to be taking control of Bradford City, but it's not going to mean anything at all. I won't be affecting how the club makes their decisions. I'll just be going through and simulating. In fact, no, I'm not going to do that. I want to give Bradford City a fair shot of completing this challenge. I'm just going to go with, let's go with Juventus and then watch the English leagues so we don't affect the results. And going with the theme of flipping, our manager is going to be Flip Louise. Not Felipe Louise, Flip Louise. And just to add to my embarrassment, I realized that I spelled Felipe Louise wrong. Jared, just give up, mate. And just to show you what it looks like, here is the Premier League, here is the Championship, here is League 1, and then here is League 2. Very weird to look at, but we're not going to waste any more time. Let's see who's up, who's down at the end of Season 1. Well, the results are in. Let's have a look after Season 1. So, Notts County, Premier League champions. They're one of the oldest clubs in English football history, I believe. But relegated will be Stevenage, Grimsby Town and Newport County. We've got a lot to go through, so I'm going to get through it as quick as possible as well. But Blackburn, Portsmouth and Charlton, between Charlton, Wigan, Scunthorpe and Bradford, they'll be promoted to the Premier League. And it's going to be Gillingham, Fleetwood and Accrington all down to League 1. And in League 1, Sheffield Wednesday and Norwich automatically promoted, and then it's between Reading, Preston, Ipswich and Derby to fight for the following promotion spots. And then I believe 4 clubs get relegated from the League 1, so it's going to be Barnsley, Burton, Oldham and Plymouth down to League 2. Chelsea are going to be going up along with Manchester City, and I believe one of those other top 4 clubs will be going up, but no surprise to see the big dogs up the top of the table. Bottom of the table was Huddersfield, but they would be going down to the conferences if they were in FIFA. And I mean, I'm pretty interested to see how the transfers play out throughout this video. Liverpool, Firmino, of course, jumping ship. Were there any players that went to the big clubs, however? That's what I'm interested to see. Company leaves to Monaco. Who else do we have in here? Nobody too noticeable. Klein leaving, Koscielny leaving, Coleman leaving, but nobody joining Premier League clubs. A lot of them leaving, none of them staying, which is no surprise to see. But it's going to be interesting, as I said, to see how this works out in future seasons. Nobody coming into any of the big clubs, so we'll keep an eye on that as the video continues going on. Season 2 sees Blackburn Premier League champions. What a blast in the past this is. Blackburn are your champions, and then the relegated is going to be Chesterfield, Crewe Alexandria and Morecambe. Norwich and Wigan Athletic back into the Premier League. Sheffield Wednesday 3rd, Reading 4th, MK Dons 5th, Scunthorpe 6th, and then going down AFC Wimbledon, Exeter, Newport County. So back-to-back relegations for Exeter and Newport. Actually, not for Exeter. They stayed in they were in the championship last season, but Newport, terrible for them. And the Premier League clubs are coming up strong. Spurs, Chelsea, Man City and Arsenal all making a real run to be back in the Premier League as soon as possible. And then it's starting to see some of the clubs balance out. It's going to be interesting to see who can actually hold their place and whether the Premier League clubs are all going to find themselves back in the Premier League. And then looking at League 2, Manchester United and Liverpool will be coming up again next season. And the smaller clubs, they are doing pretty poor. So Marcus Rashford making the move out of Old Trafford. Haven't seen anybody else. Jan Vertonghen off to Monaco. Xherdan Shaqiri transferring to Chelsea. I guess he sees Chelsea coming up quicker than he does Stoke, so he's gone to Chelsea. Matip out of Liverpool. Smalling to Fenerbahce. Origi to Leipzig. Rojo to Inter. Danny Rose to Roma. Mikel Antonio to Ajax. Nothing crazy so far. Perez, Abraham, they're all leaving clubs, but most of them are leaving to go overseas. After 3 seasons, Sheffield Wednesday are champions of England. It's funny seeing the stronger sides coming back up the divisions and then immediately wiping the floor. That just shows that a lot of these clubs, these Premier League clubs that are actually League 2 clubs, aren't using the platform they've been given. So Sheffield Wednesday, Premier League champions. Forest Green, Crawley Town and Port Vale all relegated. Spurs and Chelsea will be back in the Premier League next season. Back-to-back promotions for these guys. Arsenal probably went up in the playoffs. Crewe Alexandria, Grimsby Town and Morecambe all down to League 1 next season. Liverpool and Manchester City will be in the championship next season, and it's up to Manchester United, Everton, Swansea and Leeds to see who joins them there. And some more relegations. Newport County back-to-back, I believe, relegations for them. Well, back-to-back relegations for them. They are in League 2 next season, back where they started. Southampton, Watford and Newcastle. Southampton and Watford both escaping out of League 2. And then looking down the bottom, the smaller clubs again starting to do pretty poor 3 seasons into it. Raheem Sterling finally leaving Man City off to Real Madrid. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain off to Barcelona. And we've had a player join one of the relegated teams, or one of the smaller teams, I guess you could say. Perisic joining Arsenal. And by smaller, I don't mean smaller now, I mean in terms of the video where we're at. Pereira joins Everton. Mustafi joins Monaco. Cancelo joins Valencia, joins Chelsea, so he'll be back in the Premier League next season. So it's interesting to see a little bit of normality restored. Let's see how it continues in Season 4. We're absolutely flying through this video, but I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. And something we'll probably look at a little bit more throughout this video is how the English clubs do in the Champions League. Man United made it, but I'm assuming that's because of the FA Cup or the Carabao Cup or something like that. But I want to see how they're doing in terms of the group stage. So like, look at that. Blackburn, pretty damn poor. Charlton Athletic in there. Portsmouth in the Champions League, along with Manchester United. So pretty poor efforts from a lot of these smaller English clubs. Well, the big dogs are back on top. Chelsea, Spurs and Arsenal are the top 3 for their first seasons back in the Premier League since the switch. Chelsea, it's very close as well. They win the league by 1 point. Yeovil Town, Cheltenham and Carlisle United all back down to the championship. And then Man City and Swansea will be back in the Premier League next season. Potentially Liverpool as well. And then looking at the drop zone, you got the likes of Wickham, Southend United and Northampton all down there. Manchester United and Watford are going to get some promotions again. They are back in the championship, and I'm sure we'll see them back in the Premier League soon after, with Everton, Southampton, Newcastle and West Ham all fighting out for the following spot. We've got Hull City, Crewe Alexandria, Grimsby Town and Morecambe going down. I'm not going to lie, I didn't expect Hull City to be going down. And then Leicester and Stoke are 2 of the teams coming back up, and a lot of the other teams that are around that sort of level are going to be coming back up, so it's all evening out. We've got a few teams still hanging on in the Premier League that started off the rebuild here, or I say the rebuild, I'm so used to saying that, but started off the experiment here, the likes of Lincoln City, Notts County, a lot of them, but will they still be here by season 10? That is a big question. Mo Salah is making the move to Real Madrid, but then you got Malcolm going to Chelsea, Marquinhos going to Spurs, Aguero to Real Madrid. We haven't really seen any of the smaller clubs sign these big name players, which is a little bit disappointing. Rabiot going to Chelsea, Bakayoko to Milan, Pickford to Leipzig. Any more players joining the bigger teams, or at least the English teams? We got Horta going to Spurs. Luka Modric went to AC Milan, but besides that, the smaller clubs aren't really signing anybody yet. I hope that changes by the end of the experiment. 5 seasons into this experiment, and we're seeing a little bit of normality being restored as the top 5 are all current Premier League sides. We've got Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man City, Swansea, all up there. So it's starting to even out again. Notts County, Premier League champions in this first season, are now back down the ranks into the championship. And 2 more Premier League clubs, 2 big Premier League clubs getting back into the Premier League. Man United and Liverpool up there. Southampton and Watford fighting it out for another spot along with MK Dons and Chesterfield. Then looking at the drop zone, some more of the clubs that were at the top of the Premier League, or were in the Premier League at least, in Season 1 are being relegated. Bury, Blackpool and Rochdale all going down. Everton and Stoke City back in the Championship, or at least up to the Championship. Leicester and Palace, Newcastle, Villa, all sides that started off in League 2 looking to make the rise to the top. We've got sides like West Ham that are sort of mid-table, Middlesbrough, but then we have Northampton, Southend United and Wickham all going back down to League 2 where they started off today's video. And then Huddersfield, Cardiff City up to League 2, Brighton trying to make a little push for it. Are any of the original teams? No, they're all doing pretty damn well to try getting out. I wonder how long it's going to take us for all the sides that started off in this division to get up into League 1, Championship, Premier League, etc. But it's been interesting seeing how FIFA simulates this. Newport County, they started off at the top. They were in the Premier League and now they're all the way down. I think the same for Plymouth Argyle. And we've got players starting to go back to these big Premier League clubs after they do finally get back into the Premier League. We've got Consuelo Guedes going to Man City, Julian Draxler going to Chelsea, this has nothing to do with our experiment, but Messi has gone to Messi's gone to Bayern Munich. I mean, Irving Lozano to Manchester United after they got back in it. Leto's gone to Southampton, which is interesting. Wendell to Man City. Robertson goes to Arsenal. Shlikov, or whoever that is, going to Arsenal as well. So the big clubs starting to buy big players. Not too many of the younger or the smaller clubs buying big. Maybe that's a financial reason. Maybe that's just the clubs or the original players not wanting to join these clubs. But very interesting to see how it's all progressed throughout the video. 6 seasons in and it is more of the same. We don't have any underdogs at the moment stepping up and getting the job done. It's going to be Chelsea running away with the league, 16 points clear of Spurs, and the top 8 are all Premier League clubs. When are the likes of Charlton Athletic, Coventry, Reading going to take that extra step and get themselves back into the top 4, which we helped them set themselves up for? Wigan, Lincoln and Swindon all relegated. Lincoln's done pretty good to survive this long though. And I mean, there's still a few of those League 2 clubs hanging on. You've got your Coventrys, you've got your Mansfield Towns, you've got your Colchesters all hanging in, although Colchester got relegated. What am I talking about? It's going to be interesting to see if they survive next season with the likes of Everton and Stoke coming up, potentially Watford, maybe Notts County are going to get themselves back up into the Premier League. Wouldn't that be something? Cheltenham, Barnet and Bristol Rovers all relegated though. And Brentford do finish above a Premier League club in Newcastle United to get themselves up to the Championship. They will be with Newcastle next season. And looking at some of the clubs, West Ham United hanging around that mid-table spot, Blackpool back down to League 2, Rochdale and Bury as well. Sunderland's in big trouble as well, and same with West Brom. And then Bournemouth and Derby finally get themselves out of League 2. Hull City's starting to make a bit of a move, and then we have the likes of Burton Albion having a pretty poor performance. Wickham Accrington and Oldham all down the bottom. And the English clubs are actually getting back to the business end of things when it comes to the Champions League performances, with both the finalists being English teams, a North London derby in the Champions League final as Spurs take down Arsenal. So the Premier League teams have bounced back spectacularly. And again, the Premier League teams starting to buy some quality players. Zakaria going to Arsenal and Titty to Man City. The smaller teams aren't getting the job done, and there's a real reason why they aren't staying up in the Premier League. It's because they're not doing the correct business. If they did that, if they took advantage of the financial gains you get from being a Premier League club, and for some of them a Champions League club after season 1, they might still be in the title race year on year on year. But it's really interesting to see how this experiment is unfolding and how some of the teams are hanging around, but most of them are just falling flat. And I think that comes down to the simulation system and the computer system of FIFA 18. That's a big thing I hope that EA work on for FIFA 19, adding a little bit more variety and adding a little bit of common sense to these CPU teams rather than the same transfers all over again and the same big teams consistently winning. Season 7, and we can see the effect that's happened so far in this video. Virtually half the Premier League is back to normality, which is absolutely insane. It's sad to see some of the sides that started off in League 2 slowly slipping out. There's still hope, however, but it is going to be Chelsea winning the league, Mansfield Town, Charlton Athletic and Blackburn all relegated. Newcastle, United and Watford are back in the Premier League next season, so another Premier League team coming back to where they belong, I guess. But then Notts County, Wigan Athletic, Brentford and Crystal Palace fighting it out. And then more sides continuing their slip down, Carlisle United, Yeovil Town and Crawley Town all relegated. West Ham, Bournemouth, they're making their rise back up. Brighton also trying to get up there. Sunderland, a little bit of respect gained from them. Huddersfield almost went back down to League 2, so they're not having a good video at all. Cardiff City back down to League 2. Premier League bound they are, so pretty crazy to see the other end of the spectrum. West Brom struggling. Fulham are going up. They've finally escaped League 2. They head to League 1. Barnsley also will be joining them. We've got some sides like Rockdale, Peterborough, Hull City all in the mix. Any noticeable clubs that are struggling? Not really. Bolton doing pretty poor, but besides that, it's pretty standard. Chelsea, Premier League champions again, but something I'm actually happy to see is some of the smaller teams, I would say, or some of the lower league teams actually doing better than Premier League clubs. We see Crystal Palace and Watford are relegated, but Coventry, Reading, who else? Norwich, Sheffield Wednesday, Portsmouth, all finishing above them. Colchester, unfortunately relegated, but it's good to see some of the teams hanging around in the Premier League. And then Charlton Athletic and Wigan Athletic back into the Premier League, so it seems like things are starting to balance out a little bit here. Port Vale, Walsall, Scunthorpe, Shrewsbury all relegated, but I'm still happy to see some good progress for some of the underdogs. Everybody loves an underdog. Preston, QPR, they're promoted. Fulham, Wolves potentially going up there. Is anyone going to be relegated? Sunderland almost down to League 2. Oldham, Crawley, Carlisle, United. And then looking at the League 2, Crewe, Alexandria, Peterborough and Barnet are promoted. They're getting promoted ahead of sides like Hull City, ahead of Bolton. It's good to see. Cardiff City doing pretty poor as well. They finished in 18th. And I mean, it makes sense why clubs like Coventry are doing pretty well, because they've made good business. They've done good business. They have an 85 rated goalkeeper who has gone to Everton now, but they've developed Cooper. So it's no surprise at all to see Coventry doing the goods. This is the penultimate season, and this is how the English footballing landscape is looking. Manchester United, top of the league, absolutely destroyed everybody else. 15 points ahead of City. Not that it really matters, because we want to see how the underdogs are going, and some of them are still hanging in there. Coventry mid-table, Reading mid-table, Sheffield making a run for potential Europa League berth in coming seasons. Wigan, West Ham and Charlton all relegated. Portsmouth still there. Hopefully they all can stay, or most of them can stay there for the end of next season and for the end of the experiment. Watford do find themselves in the Premier League next season, so do Colchester, and potentially Crystal Palace, Mansfield Town, Cambridge United or Lincoln City. Those sorts of guys have really done well in this experiment. Forest Green, MK Dons and Shrewsbury are all relegated. West Brom do get themselves up to the Championship after a pretty poor 9-year run. Leeds United also going back to the Championship where they began this experiment, or where they are in real life, I guess it is. Bristol, Villa, Derby, Ipswich all fighting for those spots as well. And then Burnley. Wow, Burnley relegated back down to Football League 2, so that is big. And Crawley Town, Rochdale, they're going to get up. Blackpool trying to make a run as well. I'm trying to see, are any of the teams that started off in this division still here? Yeah, Cardiff City, that's right. They've had an absolute stinker of a video. They have done terrible throughout this experiment. So this is the end of the 10th season, and this is how the English landscape is looking. Man City are the champions, and it's very, very similar to what we've seen in real life. Portsmouth up in 10th, which I'm very happy to see. And Liverpool have been relegated. Oh my. So Coventry, Portsmouth, Norwich, who else? Sheffield Wednesday, Reading and Colchester all were in the Premier League at the end of the 10th season. So it hasn't gone completely back to how it started. We've still got some teams in the lower leagues. Let's go and check out how they have gone. So West Ham United have made themselves a Premier League club for next season, but we're not going to get to see if they can hold again. Mansfield Town also getting back in, with Preston, Wigan, Swindon and Charlton all trying to get back into the Premier League. Bradford City, Stevenage and Sheffield United relegated. Fulham did get back to the Championship, so they got back to their normal stage. Forest Green back to the Championship, and Wolves, MK Dons, Sunderland and Ipswich trying to get up. Sunderland's had a very good season. Any other big teams doing poor in this league? No, not really. Birmingham City almost getting relegated, but besides that, it's pretty standard. And then looking at League 2, Scunthorpe and Cheltenham up. Let's have a look and see if there's anybody notable. Cardiff, they have had a shocker of a video. Hull City and Burnley. Oh my god, Burnley have back-to-back relegations for the Clarets. That is not good. Sorry, Visa. I'm sure you're not happy to see that. So, fellas, that is going to conclude what has been a very long FIFA 18 career mode experiment. If you enjoyed it, and if you enjoyed this sort of thing, make sure you leave a like on the video. Very raw concept, but we've tried our best with it. Make sure you scorpion kick that subscribe button down below if you are new around here. Check out my social media links, and make sure, if you are keen, go and get your hands on some JarradHD merch. But most importantly, fellas, I hope you have a fantastic day. It has been JarradHD here. I am out. Peace.